Now, also, I brought it up in my opening speech. Rentals. Okay. It's just mind-blowing to think about how big renting games was, and now it's no longer a thing now. I mean, obviously we have, online gaming and demos, but like, to be able to rent a game for the weekend, if you didn't have enough money to buy a game, now, for the record, my parents never bought me games unless it was like my birthday or Christmas. So if I had to buy a game, I had to save my own money, and the only way I could make money was mowing lawns. That was the only way, or garage sales. Garage sales and mowing lawns was my only way to make money to buy games. But my mom always took me to the video rental place every weekend. Shout out to the Video King, Joe. Do you remember Video King in Fayetteville?
Yeah.
I was allowed to rent one movie and one game. And normally I did rent before I was able to have the money to buy Mortal Kombat 2. I rented it all the time, but I did rent other games, and then I always prayed that if I rented a game, I prayed that my save file was still there. Hope that someone else didn't rent it and erased it or played over it or whatever. It was always a gamble. You're rolling the dice, like, all right, is my save game still there? But one thing I want to talk about too is we're talking about the peak of game rentals here, and I was looking at my list of games of 1994, Lion King. Like, if you couldn't play a game at the arcade, you rented a game, and if you rented a game, the game developers were smart and said, we're gonna make these first couple levels so goddamn hard that you're not gonna be able to beat the game in one weekend, and you're not gonna be able to beat it, and you're not gonna be, because if you rent it and beat it, then you're not gonna buy it. But if you rent it and you can't beat it, but you're having fun, you're more likely to buy it. And that was a strategy like all game developers did. Was they, like, a lot of games that were available to rent, were super hard in the beginning, and in particular Lion King.
Yeah, it's funny. I have, as part of a big promotion I'm doing this summer, I have a new book of interviews coming out. And in talking with people from Westwood Studios about another project that probably anyone with Westwood could probably guess, I talked to them about The Lion King because I kind of wanted to debunk that rumor, right? Is it true that the developers are actually making some early levels harder on purpose so that kids couldn't just beat it in a weekend? The funny thing is I got conflicting answers. I talked to the designer of the second level of Lion King, which is infamous. That's the Can't Wait to Be King level with the monkey throwing puzzles. I hate that level, right? He says, no, that was how it was designed from the beginning. But Lewis Castle, the co-founder of Westwood, remember talking with Virgin, who co-developed Lion King with Westwood, and Disney, saying, no, this level needs to be at least twice as long, and the puzzle needs to be twice as hard. So, that's the interesting thing about talking to developers back then, because it was so long ago now. They have conflicting accounts, not necessarily arguing and putting up their dukes, but just like, well, I remember it this way, you remember it that way. But the consensus does seem to be like, yeah, we had to make those games harder. And they both told me, like, we kind of feel bad about it because these were little kids who were after the Lion King to play it, right? And when you're Jay, I was in the same boat. Every weekend I could rent one game and one movie. Same deal with my sister, although she usually got two movies because, I had access to all the games. Right, exactly. And I remember choosing Lion King, and my brother eventually got it for Genesis. And I remember the day we beat the Can't Wait to Be King level, it felt like beating the damn level in the original Ninja Turtles on NES. I felt like I beat the game, like almost like I don't even need to keep playing. I feel like I won. That's it.
And then your password gets erased.
Yeah. Of course.
Honest to God, I don't think, looking back at my life, I don't think I ever rented a game and beat it. Like, I don't think I ever did. I think every game I've rented, I got through pretty far, but I don't think I ever beat a rental in one weekend. Looking back,
I can tell you right now that video game rentals, I still get asked to this day why I rush through games and why I'm able to just spend an entire day on a game just to beat it. And that's literally a habit I formed from trying to beat the games before I gave them back to the rental company. So I spent many a weekend just literally just hunkering down for the entire day beating the game. So, and I still do that today. I'll get a game, I'll have it beat in 2 days.
Now, someone fill me in. I'm going to lean towards Tabmok or David, because you probably know the history better than I do. But wasn't there a lawsuit from Nintendo about video game rentals? Was there a lawsuit or no? Like they thought that rentals hindered sales.
I don't remember if there was a lawsuit. Justin, jump in if you remember. I know that they didn't like it. I don't think most publishers liked rentals, but I don't know if there was a lawsuit because they really didn't have a lot of ground to stand on. You know, rental stores could say we rent movies. Video games are no different, and the video game publishers have to go, oh yeah, true. That's kind of how I remember it going. Justin,
there was a lawsuit about. I think it was against Blockbuster, not copying the games, but copying the video game manuals, because Blockbuster wanted to make sure, because people could take the manuals home and lose them or rip them or damage them, so Blockbuster would just make copies of the manuals instead of the originals, and Nintendo said, well, that's our copyrighted manuals, so you can't do that.
Oh, that's
and honestly, this brings me to my idea I have for a book that I would like to see somebody write, maybe you, David. Video game lawsuits. How many lawsuits have there been over video games? They haven't been collected in a single volume. Like that would be freaking entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
a good idea because there were lawsuits over all sorts of stuff, like Donkey Kong and King Kong, way back in the.
Yep,
in the 80s,
and
right?
that's where Kirby
Game
came
Genie.
from.
Game Genie with Galoob. I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
There was I think there was a lawsuit with Game Genie. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, was that Galoob or Codemasters?
Before there was Game Shark, guys, there was Game Genie.
Yeah.
That's right.
I remember those damn commercials too.
Do you remember the one with Sony and Bleem, the emulator?
Oh, you know what? I talked to the guy who made Bleem. It's coming out in that same book of interviews coming up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
See, there we go. I mean, I'm telling you, man, I would just love it if somebody just had a whole, real deep dive into all these video game lawsuits, interviews with the people who did the suing or who got sued, or in some cases both, if you could. That would be a fun read.
See, the one thing I do remember, going back to the rental thing real quick, Joe, back
Yeah.
me up if you. I'm digging really deep into my memory here, but I remember when I rented. Again, I'm going to reference Video King. Now I don't know how big Video King was in the entire. They were all over New York State. In Syracuse, we had like several locations. The one that we went to was Fayetteville, New York, in the Syracuse area. I remember when you rented the game from Video King, it never came with a manual, but inside the plastic case.
Yes.
There was their own manual saying what the controls were and what the game was about. Like Video King always made their own manual with the controls and on display and everything. It was wild. Like they never had the instruction manual. It was like their own written summarized it was their own summarized manual of what the game was about with the controls.
And I think that may have been their answer back to that lawsuit of, we'll just make our own then.
Now, how cool would it be if you could track down some of those Video King manuals, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember Blockbuster doing that sort of thing. And like you say, Jay, it was very abridged. It's like, here are the controls, here's how to save. Because when you think about it, that's all you need to know when you sit down to play a new game. Like, how do I save my progress? How do I jump? Okay, I'm good to go. Let's go. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
Although manuals did used to be a lot of fun to read.
Oh, they did. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what's really crazy now? If you have a manual preserved, like an old one preserved, they're worth so much money on eBay now. It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Again, one of those things where I wish I could travel back in the past and tell little Jay, save everything, save all your games, save all your cases, save all your manuals. You'll be able to retire at 30. God, if only I knew.